we can see there's something bigger at play, that you play a role, and all the past events in your life have played a role that led you up until this moment.
Life is always working in your favor. You can't heal in the same environment you became sick.
Hey, what's up, RE? Good to see you guys. It's been a minute. Hey, in this video, I'd like to talk to you guys about plant medicines. So the number one question that I get, or the number one umbrella of questions that I get, is about plant medicines. And these would include ayahuasca, psilocybin, psilocybin, magic mushrooms. This would be LSD. This would be MDMA. This would be iboga. This would be mescaline, peyote. Even cannabis falls under this category. The list goes on and on of what is a plant-based alkaloid, or this type of entheogen. Another way to say it is a classic psychedelic, right? And these substances, before they really had a name, used to be called consciousness-expanding drugs. Then it went to classic or psychedelics, right? And now people are using the term entheogens. And I don't have experience with all of these plant medicines, only a couple. And so that's what I want to talk to you guys more about in this video. I want to talk to you about the ceremonies that I've participated in, where the ayahuasca ceremonies are, and give you some more resources about ayahuasca, and hopefully point you in a direction. I want to be clear, I'm not recommending this. I'm not saying you should do something. Another thing I want to be clear about is I'm not a licensed therapist. However, with a lot of these plant medicines, they're relatively new, and we haven't had that time for evidence-based medicine or those full 10-year FDA-approved studies. And I also think humanity is at a point where we might not have time enough time to dedicate to those studies. So I want to come forward and talk more about this. Since I did episode 170 on the Recovery Elevator podcast, there's a link to that. And in that episode, I talk about my experience at Rythmia in 2018. I waited 6 weeks until my experience to make sure that everything had settled, that it was still, new paint in my life, like a new vision in my life. And I think looking back on my deathbed, it'll be pre and post that retreat. And I'd like to dedicate some more videos in the future to talking specifically about individual ayahuasca retreats, or more specifically, my ayahuasca retreat in 2018 at Rythmia that opened so much up that I'm still processing right now and still digesting some of that stuff. And one more thing I want to comment on. I've wanted to talk more about this because it has been by far the most powerful tool or boost on my journey. I haven't done so out of fear. And this is me saying that I haven't found a better way to overcome fear than going through it, right? I tried a long time in my life with alcohol to not face fear, but this is it. And if there is some criticism about this, that's okay. If I'm being authentic to my mission of spreading resources about what helps people in recovery, then I have to do this. And hopefully in 2020, 65 years after Bill W. went to the board of Alcoholics Anonymous and said, hey guys, let's make LSD, a plant-based alkaloid, part of the program. And they were not accepting to it then. I think in the recovery arena, just like so many paradigms are going to be shifting, and some of them might be dissolving, and some of them will be completely turned upside down. I think in the recovery world, it's going to go towards these plant-based medicines in collaboration with AA and a bunch of other modalities. But I think the level of pain and suffering on the planet, on the global scale, has reached such intense levels that for our species, some of these plant medicines are going to play an essential role in the departure of the identification with the thinking mind in humans, right? And a gentleman named Paul Stamets, who's kind of the mushroom guru, claims that psilocybin, magic mushrooms, are the planet's natural immune system for everything. And in the 70s, when white people discovered magic mushrooms in the high altitude mountains of Oaxaca, this stuff is relatively new to us, to Western world. Now with ayahuasca, the Colombians and many tribes and cultures in the Amazon have been using ayahuasca, and they call it the rope of death because it's the closest you can get to death without dying. So some of these tribes, many of them in the Amazonian region, have been using ayahuasca and these plant medicines for thousands and thousands of years. It's referenced in some tribes in Colombia have been using ayahuasca for 10,000 years. I mean, the history around these naturally occurring medicines in nature is just incredible. And I've really enjoyed learning more about them. Okay, so what is the overall power of plant medicine? Like, what is so transforming about it? And guys, I love getting emails. I get a lot of random emails from listeners that say, hey, I listened to episode 170. I attended Rythmia, or I attended another ayahuasca retreat, and it was an incredible experience. So I love talking about this stuff, and I love hearing your experiences. But what makes it so impactful in your life? All right, there's so many, but I only want to cover a few. Number one, you'll reach a sense of peace that in this lifetime, or perhaps in this decade, you haven't quite felt yet. And it's almost the most familiar, unfamiliar feeling you've ever felt. And it's this sense of overall, I'm okay, I'm authentic, who I am, that will be embraced, and no matter what happens, I'm okay. And let me talk to you about that familiar feeling. It's almost like you haven't smelled something for 20 years, and you go into a shop or a store, and you smell that smell, and everything rushes back. You just know it's a truth. It's like a known reality. And that's what ayahuasca did for me. It put me into some senses of peace, right? And some of it is back in the womb. We all spent a good amount of time. I was around the 8-month, almost 9-month, or 8.5-month mark, almost 9-month mark in a womb, extremely comfortable. I don't have a lot of cerebral memory of it, but the body knows just how safe that was, just how comfortable that was. So you'll reach a level of peace, right? And this is a goal we try to attain in meditation. And it's a level of known. And even if it doesn't stay with you, there's a part of you at the cellular level that in this lifetime, you know it exists. It's there. And part of you will go after that. So after that retreat I had in 2018, meditation became a huge part of my journey because I knew there was this familiar known that I was able to achieve of peace and calm and restfulness, this calm, restorative peace in my body. And I knew and I don't want to be drinking ayahuasca all the time to get that known, right? And so that's where I went down the meditation route, and it was so joyous and so peaceful for me. It really helped out. The next thing that ayahuasca and other plant medicines can do is allow you to zoom out, right? We're often caught in the day-to-day trenches of our story, and our story might not even be true, but it's what we keep telling ourselves, those familiar narratives. So ayahuasca allows us to almost get out higher than like a 30 or 40,000. We get to like a 50,000 foot view of our life, of the earth, of everything that's happening. And we can see there's something bigger at play, that you play a role, and all the past events in your life have played a role that led you up until this moment. And it removes the insight, the narration that the thinking mind throws on it is good or bad, right? So it allows you to think back on events in your life that may have been traumatic, but you're viewing them without the lens of good or bad. And then when we remove that, we're able to see how it has affected us or how it has pushed us in a direction that maybe we don't want to go. But overall, you can see that almost everything is working in your favor. And you've heard us say on the podcast, myself and Odette, that life is rigged in your favor. And you can clearly or more easily see how all these sequence of events have been working in your favor all along. So what does that give you? It gives you that magic word you hear in recovery: acceptance. You still might not like where you're currently at in your life situation, but it gives you acceptance. It says, okay, I'm part of something bigger, right? You've heard that if you've been around the recovery block a couple times. It helps you get outside of your head and recognize that you are part of something bigger. Another reason why these plant medicines are so powerful is it gives you clear pointers of where to go next, right? Your retreat will end on a Saturday or Sunday, and you'll walk out saying, okay, I know exactly where I need to go. And it's different for everybody, but it's interesting how most of these life direction, these paths, lead you to more connection. Whether it's, I need to call my brother Tim or my brother Mark more, right? Like, it's all around connection. I need to spend more time with my family. I need to do more of what I love. And that always involves being around people, right? So regardless of what it is, you're going to come out with clear direction. And you're going to be given a wealth of things to digest and process with, of things to go. And like I said, I'm still digesting things that were uncovered in April 2018. And I've done an ayahuasca a total of 14 times since then. But I want to go back to how you get these clear signposts. Okay, in the ceremony, what ayahuasca does, it just lifts this layer of fog, layer of muck that living in the Western world, or really in any part of the globe you live on right now, there's a layer of inflammation. There's a layer of dense energy that we hold. So ayahuasca helps you, A, purge it out. Sometimes you throw up while doing that. But B, the energy just lifts, and you're able to like lift the needle of the deepened grooves of your story, of your neurological record, and you can start to see things different, right? And when you remove that fog, it's just easier to see things. And like I said, you get clear directions of where to go. And I've followed these directions, and not once after an ayahuasca retreat have they led me down somewhere that I said, oh, mother ayahuasca, you got me good. No, it's almost, as I said, they're like known, familiar directions. And there's some of them are so familiar, guys. This is the part about the fear thing. Part of these knowns are so familiar of where you need to go. It's because it's like, I know I've already been there before. And that's part of deja vu, right? You get deja vu, and some mystics say you're on the right track. You've been in this venue before. You've been in this part of this region. So some of those signposts are familiar. It says, okay. And one of them for me is I keep getting feelings and snippets that I do this every life. I spread a message. And in this life, it happens to be, let's ditch the booze, alcohol is shit, right? But even the deeper pointing with that is like, we need to wake up as a species pretty close. We're right about that time. And so ayahuasca gives you this clear signpost because you've already done it. There's part of you that's already walked this path. And then when you already know you've walked this path, and you already know this deep, familiar sense of peace exists, it's in your cells. It's like muscle memory. And there's an acceptance with it. It just gives you this infinite amount of power to move forward in life with against all odds. This power to go into what you resist persist. You have to go into it. Gives you the power to go into what's been holding you back. And it's really a special thing. One more thing to mention. After these retreats, like you get the love bomb, and they can be filled with so much love and energy. Afterward, there can be some anchorings after these retreats, right? You can, and I don't recommend going big on these. And the medicine will tell you how much to drink. That's what I mean. I don't recommend, if this is your first experience, taking a large dose of psilocybin. In ayahuasca, I'd go really slow with this. And the medicine will tell you when to go back. And I had an experience where the medicine kept telling me to go back and back and back. I had 7 cups. I want you to go slow with this. And the reason why is because the circuitry might not be built in your body to fully comprehend the level of consciousness that you hit during these ceremonies. Okay, another way to say that is you can recognize that there's so much more to this world, and you're part of something so much bigger that when you come back home from a ceremony, the circuitry or the cells or the level of consciousness isn't quite there to wrap your head around what the fuck just happened. That's a better way to say it. There can be such a tight anchoring because the thinking mind, which functions on predictability of the known, you just went into the unknown that was so real, so familiar. Your inner experiences are more real than your outer experience, right? And you hit these truths, these knowns, these signposts, but the thinking mind says, no go, Pablo, let's not do this, right? So after these retreats, sometimes what can happen is your body will create chemicals to pull you back. And this happens at all retreats. Whenever we really push past our comfort zone, there will be an anchoring or a quickening or some difficult days after that. I just want to throw this out. With ayahuasca and some of these medicines, you're not removing like 1 or 2 layers of the onion. You can pop the whole thing wide open, right? And you need to be prepared to go into that stuff and make sure you've got the support for you. But like I said, there comes this superhuman strength, right? There's a strength that's outside of you that starts flowing through you. You are no longer going against the flow of life. As soon as we start working with it, using these, you can see how these difficult experiences in your life currently are working in your favor. You can pivot, you can change your direction almost instantly. And after just a couple days of attending these retreats, you can drastically improve your life because of the couple small decisions you make based on the insights you got from Mother Ayahuasca. And let me circle back to not pushing it, right? Here's why I feel no pressure to push this stuff. It's because there is an intelligence in this medicine, all of them. And if I'm true to the spiritual route that I'm going down, and I see the intelligence in this medicine because that's how I was called to it. It started to show up on my radar. And this is how it happens to a lot of people. Their ears will be perked, right? And something will say, hey, let's research ayahuasca, or an Ibogaine retreat in Costa Rica, whatnot, right? So all I want to do is share my experiences. If you're called to do this, then great. If not, also great. Everybody's journey is unique. So as I mentioned, since April of 2018, I have done 14 ayahuasca ceremonies total. And my last ceremony was April of 2019. So at the time of recording this, it's been over a year since doing ayahuasca. I've got 2 retreats booked at Rythmia, one this December and one in February. There's a shaman named Taita, which I hear is incredible, right? And what a life experience to go and do ayahuasca with one of the most talented shamans in the world. I'll sign up for that. But it's been a year and a half since my last ayahuasca ceremony. And people ask me sometimes, Paul, if I do ayahuasca, do I have to continually do it over and over and over? Good question, right? Again, there's intelligence in this medicine. It's going to tell you what to do. So I wouldn't even stress about that. Like don't even dedicate any brain cells to thinking, do I have to do ayahuasca over and over and over? Because A, the medicine will tell you, and B, as you uncover this stuff, the onion popping open, your body is going to come online more than ever. So it's going to tell you, hey, Paul, like we need some additional support. And maybe it's ayahuasca, maybe it's yoga, right? Maybe it's float tank therapy, maybe it's more AA meetings, but your body is going to start telling you signals and you're going to be more open to them as ever. All right. So I've done two ceremonies or 2 retreats at Rythmia. This is in Costa Rica. Highly recommend it. There's going to be a link to all this stuff as well. I think if you book at Rythmia with Recovery Elevator, mention it at booking, they cover your shuttle. I think that still works. Now, this is expensive. It's like $5K. And if you get your own room, it's like $6K, maybe not including flights. After my first retreat, I would have put my credit card down and said, hey, let's charge me twice for a tip, right? Like, for me, it was worth it, right? They've just got the whole thing figured out. They have classroom sessions with the integration, the level of talent with the shamans. They fly in shamans from all across the globe. 5-star retreat, ride your bike to the beach, go surf, and the people you meet too. It's the whole thing in that retreat. You get what you pay for. And I'm also working on an 18 or 19 day intensive in-person retreat in Costa Rica where Rythmia is part of that. And that's part of the reason I'm going back in December is to scout locations and in February as well. And I'm also going through a pandemic, right? Like we're all going through this stuff and I want to go to Rythmia to really boost my journey. And then I did a 2-night ceremony in Mexico with urbanicaros.com. Again, you're going to see a link to that in the notes. It's a gal named Demi and her partner Brian out of Phoenix, Arizona. They do 2-night ceremonies in the Phoenix area, and sometimes they travel to Rocky Point, Mexico, and they also will travel to you. I hired them. Doesn't that sound weird? I hired a shaman to meet us in the middle. We met in Idaho, and I had 14 friends. Many of them were also on the alcohol-free journey. We rented a killer Airbnb, and we did a ceremony together. It was incredibly bonding. It was what an amazing experience, right? And then I did another one at Etnikas, which is in the Sacred Valley of Peru. All of them were fantastic experiences, right? Including the one in Peru. And let me talk about Etnikas for a second. That one was the most authentic one I had, right? It wasn't quite in the jungle of Iquitos in Peru, but it was in the Sacred Valley of Peru. And then the shaman spoke Spanish, and it was even a difficult Spanish. I speak really good Spanish, lived in Spain for 3 years, but I didn't understand all the Spanish. And he sang the music instead of they playing like an iPod or something. And you might say, oh, the music when they sing it is so much more authentic. It is, but there's a genre of plant medicine music called Icaros. It's Icaros. Thank you, Chris. It's called Icaros. It's a genre like jazz, like hip hop, right? It's music for plant medicine. It allows you to go deeper into music. And at the Etnikas retreat, which was a positive experience, great staff in the Sacred Valley, fun animals on the staff. It was almost like too authentic for me. I had such a powerful experience in Rythmia in 2018. This is when I was talking with monkeys. And I'm going to talk more about that in a later video. And I did go back a second time to Rythmia, and I talked to the shaman who walked me through that monkey experience, and I was like, hey, what the hell happened, Brad? He's like, dude, you were talking to monkeys, and other people at the retreat have emailed me since then, and that'll be a different video. That was by far the most impactful moment in my life. Okay, So at Etnikas, it was almost like a little too authentic. And since I had that really powerful experience at Rythmia, part of me was afraid to really let go, and I didn't understand the shaman fully. Like the shaman's native language isn't Spanish. It's it's not Quechua. It could be, I don't know, but it wasn't Spanish. So it was a little harder for me to really let go, and I was really cold at that ceremony. It was right before I got diagnosed with testicular cancer. So my experience at Etnikas was a little raw, right? I didn't really fully let go, and there's only one other person at retreat. So Rythmia gives you like the full gamut, right? Yeah, there's 80 people at Rythmia, and you might say, that's a lot of people. And if you want to do ayahuasca in a smaller setting, that's totally fine. Listen to the body. But what Rythmia does with those 80 people guided by like 8 to 10 shamans is they work with energy. So they'll take the energy of 80 people and just infuse it with love, and that's how energies compound on each other. So again, I would recommend Rythmia, but it's all what you're comfortable with, right? And there's more and more popping up. So here's some resources. If you're interested in learning more about plant medicine, right? I would recommend reading the book How to Change Your Brain by Michael Pollen. He does a deep dive on all this stuff. And now Michael Pollen is a renowned food critic in that space, and he decided to write a book called How to Change Your Mind on the world of psychedelics and how these can really expand the circuitry in your mind and leverage the neuroplasticity function in our brain. I would start with that book as a resource. You can go to rythmia.com, urbanicaros.com, and really just be open, right? If this is something that your journey might encapsulate, then be open to it, because it's gonna start showing up. And of course, let us know. Let us know in the comment area your experiences. Share your resources with this. Again, this is the most common question that I get, so I know you guys are curious and you might have questions. Ask the questions in the comments, guys. The fourth biggest point that plant medicine does is it builds the connection within. So there's a universal law that says your external environment is a direct reflection of your internal environment. And if your internal environment is not connected, there's a sense of loneliness, isolation, alienation, disconnection within. You're gonna see that in your external environment, right? And this is something that I've gone through. This is something with a lot of people who struggle with addiction experience, right? And so what ayahuasca and these plant medicines allow you to do is to really build that inner connection. And you can leverage this, right? Bring in feelings or images of love and joy and past memories, and you'll flood it with oxytocin. This is the love molecule, and it feels so good, right? So you're gonna start to build this connection in your inner world, and then later it's gonna be exemplified in the external world. It's really neat how that works. So there's infinite ways to connect, and there's infinite ways to disconnect. And that's really the choice we have to make, and we have to make it in every moment. Am I gonna connect right now, or am I gonna disconnect? And you watching this video, whether you do plant medicine in the future or not, that's up to you. You're choosing to connect. You're choosing to accumulate information, gather knowledge, gather resources, and implement that on your journey. You're choosing to connect. So good on you. Hey guys, thanks for sticking with me. Chris, you doing good? Oh, hey, and real quick guys, Chris, before making this video, I gave him a call. I was like, hey Chris, I wanna make this video about plant medicine. You cool with this? He's like, Paul, I've never done them. I don't really have any interest to do them. Now my journey's not being pulled. But yeah, cool, let's do it. Chris, anything you wanna say?
Hey Paul, what's up everybody? Like you said, Paul, I don't have any plans to participate in any ayahuasca ceremonies. And for today, I don't feel called or compelled to do it. But I remember when episode 170 first came out, I'd never really heard of it. I didn't really have any information on it. And my mind kind of went to that place of judgment, like, what the heck is this? What's he doing? But the more I dug into it, I learned that our society has kind of shut the door on this type of thing. Whether it's the government or just people in general, there's not a ton of research out there to show the ways that it could be beneficial. And through looking into it more and more, I've heard a lot of stories about people who have found a lot of healing and a lot of hope through some of these different methodologies. And I appreciate you, Paul, sharing your story versus advocating that everybody needs to go out and do this, but sharing what your experiences have been and letting people interpret that for themselves on whether or not they think it's a direction that they need to go. For what it's worth, my advice to anybody who's considering trying some of these alternative methods or different methods would be, first, just do your research. There's a lot of stuff out there, even though it might not be clinical. There's a lot of people who have shared experiences, and there are people who are trying different things. So it's good to see that there's getting to be more and more information out there. So do your research, and I think most importantly, just listen to your gut. It's easy to be influenced one way or the other from the outside world, but I think the most important thing is listen to your gut and make sure that you're making an informed decision that's right for you. Thanks again, Paul, for sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
Chris, my man, good to be here with you. Always good to be with you guys. Let us know in the comment areas, right? Let's connect in the comment section. If you have questions, if you have resources you want to share, your own personal experiences, let's roll. Let's do this. Good to see you guys.